Hey everybody, how's it going? I decided to include the summary on the day 6 video since all we did really was laws on day 6 and it wasn't a very long video. So let's go ahead and get to the summary. Kenny and I have known each other since 1966. We consider ourselves, he and his sisters and his mom, we consider ourselves cousins. We're not actually related. One of my cousins was married to his mom way back then, and that's how we all met. Cousins long gone, and we're all still family. But Kenny and I have been talking for quite some time about taking a road trip, and we finally got around to doing it. One of the things that I'm sure everybody knows is not everyone travels well. I've been with people that I did not care for traveling with for whatever reason. They're complainers, they're in a hurry, whatever. Just there's many reasons. And Kenny and I weren't like that. That we traveled well together. Like I said, we've known each other for so long. We talked about old times, talked about new times, talked about things we might do in the future, and we weren't in a hurry. Neither of us has been to Bodie, and as you saw, Kenny said, "Hey, you ever been to Bodie?" "No." "Let's go." "Okay." We didn't care what we did. Like I said, it's about the adventure, not the destination. We left on Monday, May 30th at 4 a.m. And we wanted to get over to the desert, get our eastbound traveling out of the way before the sun came up. And it was super windy in the desert, all the way up to Bishop. And once we started going up the mountains into Mammoth, it settled down a little bit. But that was the only nasty weather we hit. It was really windy, and it was the same thing coming back. And I took over the driving the first day in Bishop, and I drove from Bishop to Susanville, and I drove the rest of the trip. Kenny doesn't care to drive, and I really like driving, so it was no big deal. That first night, as you saw in the first video, if you watched it, we stopped in Susanville and spent the night there at a Diamond Mountain Casino Hotel. And we both lost a couple $100 gambling that night. And then we got up and went to Klamath Falls the next day. Klamath Falls is about another 3 hours. We got there about 11 o'clock and just kind of rested the rest of the day and unpacked and unwound and visited a little bit with Kenny's dad and his wife. And so that's why I didn't do a video on day 2. Once we got to John's house, Kenny's dad's house up there at Klamath Falls, we didn't move the truck again. John drove us everywhere. We didn't get in Kenny's truck again until we left yesterday morning. So it's always nice to have a chauffeur who knows where you're going. So anyway, on to the facts of the trip as I saw them. Kenny may have saw them another way, but he's not making this video. We drove about 1,000 miles with the up and back, and then the few little the trip off to Bodie and Laws and a couple of those, right at 1,000 miles. We were on the road about 27 hours all told in the drive up and drive back. We drove all the stuff where John drove us around up to Crater Lake and stuff. I don't know, that was probably maybe 300 miles altogether, but I wasn't driving, so I don't count that. The best roads on this trip, I would have to say California, because we came all the way up 395, and 395 is a hard road to beat. It's in great shape. Most of it is relatively new, and considering the weather extremes that road goes through, it's in pretty good shape. It's in very good shape, and we only drove a little bit in Nevada and a little bit in Oregon. Klamath Falls is just over the border, and as I said, we didn't drive once we got to Oregon. There were no bad roads, though, to speak of. Nevada's roads are always in good shape. Oregon's roads seem to be in pretty good shape. We traveled almost extensively on 2-lane roads in Oregon, and they all seem to be in pretty good shape. Best and worst drivers, once again, best drivers were in California. We didn't encounter much traffic at all. But when we went through, when we were in Nevada, going up, we went through Carson City, got off the freeway there and went through Carson City, and it was, going through Carson City sucks. It's not as bad as it used to be now that the freeway goes around it, but I hate driving in Carson City, even though I love Carson City. But Worst drivers were in Oregon. Sorry, Oregon, you guys suck. As I said, we didn't encounter a lot of traffic on the back roads, but even without a lot of traffic being on the back roads, some of the traffic that was on the back roads sucked. The people, they're just, I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just not used to people being around. But in Klamath Falls, holy cats, it was terrible. Sorry, Oregon. New Mexico used to have the worst drivers. On my list, Oregon's got you beat. I didn't notice the last time I did where I saw the cheapest and the most expensive gas. I didn't pay that much attention because we weren't driving in Oregon, so I didn't pay that much attention to gas prices. But the gas prices in Oregon, on average, are about $1 a gallon cheaper than California, as it is pretty much everywhere because of our taxes. And there were a couple of places that, maybe it was a little more, maybe some places it was a little less. The most expensive gas that we saw was at a place called Reno Junction, where Highway 70 and Highway 395 intersect, and way up in northeastern California. And the gas there, a gallon of regular at a Chevron was $6.83 a gallon. Now, when we got back to Bakersfield, or almost to Bakersfield, we realized we were pretty low on gas, got stuck in a traffic jam up by Tehachapi because of another truck wreck in those curves down by the tunnels. And so we stopped at General Beal, and the gas there for a gallon of regular was $6.80. And right up the road on Weed Patch Highway, it was $1 a gallon cheaper. Insane. So if you're going to go out to Murray Farms or come in, if you're going to travel, don't stop there. If you've got enough gas to make it into town, go to Weed Patch Highway where the AM, PM and all that is, and save yourself $1 a gallon. We only stayed one night in a motel, and that was in Susanville the first night. And a very nice room. Those casinos up there, they don't have table games. The one at Topaz Lake that we stopped at coming back had a couple of table games, but it's all just slot machines, and most of them are like penny slots. So I don't know, that's not my thing, but we did it anyway and had a little fun. Went to 3 different casinos. By far the coolest thing that I saw on that old trip was Train Mountain. It was absolutely amazing. It was so much fun. Our engineer / tour guide, a guy named David Savage, really knowledgeable of the history of the place. And I so highly suggest that if you're going to go to Oregon and you only have the time and the money to do one thing, go to Train Mountain. It is really cool. And they work on donations to get in and take those little rides on those trains. But they work on donations. So if you go up there, don't be a cheapskate. Leave a donation. The most beautiful thing that I saw on that trip was Crater Lake. If you've never been there, and Crater Lake's not very far from Train Mountain. So if you're going to go to Train Mountain, you got a few extra bucks to go into the national park. I highly recommend a trip to Crater Lake. It is truly one of the most awe-inspiring natural things that I've ever seen. It's really cool, and the story behind it's awesome too. The most interesting place, in my opinion, I went to was Bodie. I'd never been there. I'd been to Crater Lake before, but I'd never been to Bodie. I always wanted to go, and I recommend Bodie very highly. It's 13 miles, I think, off of 395, and the last 3 miles are dirt road, and it's pretty beat up, but it's not bad. I mean, you could take your Prius up there. We saw Priuses up there. Don't take your Harley. If you're on a Harley, don't go. That is not a good road for Harleys. If you're on an adventure bike or dual sport, no problem. But anything else, I don't recommend. Any other two-wheel conveyance, I don't recommend for Bodie. The most disappointing thing that in my opinion, I visited was probably the Klamath County Museum, which is a great big place, but I don't know. It was okay, don't get me wrong, but I'm used to Pioneer Village and West Kern Oil Museum and some of these museums that I'm familiar with that are just awesome. The museums down in LA, the presidential libraries, which are different, but still. And like I said, it wasn't bad, but It wasn't that interesting. I didn't think. It had some really cool stuff in it, but I don't know. I don't know. That's just my opinion. One of the other things is on this trip, we saw 0 trains on the move. We saw the train that was in the one video that was parked, the Herzog ballast train parked at Klamath Falls. I saw a BNSF sitting outside of Klamath Falls the morning we were leaving. He was sitting in what looked like an industry. Had his lights on and everything, but he wasn't moving. And saw a train parked at Woodford coming home. I saw 0 trains. I would have certainly put them in here had I seen it. One thing we did see was a tie gang working on a line up there, and I'm assuming it's a branch line. If you're familiar with the railroads up there, drop in the comments below, because I have no idea what this is. It wasn't signaled. It was ribbon rail, but it didn't appear to be signaled. There was an interlocking that I saw somewhere along the way that looked like it was just a automatic first come first serve interlocking, and but it was ribbon rail, and it went a long way. I started at Klamath Falls, and I have no idea where it went. It veered away from Highway 139, and I didn't see it again. Then I saw an old abandoned railroad up by above Susanville. I'm not sure where it was. It hadn't obviously had been used. And if you know anything about that, let me know in the comments below. Traffic along the way the whole trip, except for the traffic jam in Tehachapi for another wreck in the same curve that they seem to have a wreck in every week now. They need to, in my opinion, put a 45 mile speed limit between the top of the hill and Tehachapi until you get out of those curves, maybe all the way to Broom Road where it straightens out a little bit. But that held us up for about a half an hour. But other than that, except in cities like Carson City, Klamath Falls was pretty crowded. But other than that, we hit hardly any traffic. It was very nice. Okay, I want to thank John and Kathy Hill for being such gracious hosts. We stayed at their house the whole time we were up there. Their beautiful home you saw in one of the videos. And such nice people. They cooked us breakfast every morning, dinner every night. It was a real homey experience. And I had been around Kenny's dad a little bit, but I didn't know him very well. And I got to know him on this trip. Very, very cool man. His wife, Kathy, very good people. Anyway, that'll wrap up the summary. I hope you guys enjoyed the trip. I hope you enjoyed the summary. And I really hope, my most fervent hope, is that if you haven't had the chance to experience any of the places we visited, and Laws on the last day, we went to Laws. If you haven't been to any of those places, even the Klamath County Museum, if you're in Klamath Falls, go check it out. But they have there's I think it's called the Fayetteville Museum, or Fayetteville, I don't know how it's pronounced. I went there in 2007 when I went up through there on my Harley, and it's more of a Native American type of museum, and it's really cool too. But I suggest all of those places. I suggest you see them all, and most of them I suggest as a destination if you've only got enough time and money to see one of them. All right, well, keep shooting me the ideas. Drop them in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motorpoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content, and we'll see you all later.